Hello, everyone who's joined us already. We will be letting these slides loop for the next few minutes, and then we're going to get started in about 2 or 3 minutes here. All right, it's about time for us to get started with our webinar today. So today we're going to be talking about GenAI on the enterprise cloud. And joining me today is Tim Spann from Cloudera. He's the principal developer advocate there. So we'll be talking a little bit about streaming with Apache NiFi and Apache Flink, and then we'll talk about how you can use Cloudera's enterprise cloud for machine learning, along with Milvus to build generative AI applications. Nice shirt, Tim. I see that you've got the Milvus shirt on. So I'm gonna hand it over to you and let you get started.
Very cool. Yeah, so I'm going to try to cover that without being too many slides. Try to show as much live demo, plus I have a extra bit pre-recorded by my friend who is our one of our machine learning engineering superstars, who really set up a really good one for us, because it takes a little resources. I like to run things as open and as affordable as possible. So I'm going to I might skip some slides, so we're not putting people to sleep with the slides. Everyone's going to get the slides later, and so people shouldn't worry about it. But let me share those, and we'll get started there. And then, like I said, we'll get into demos, and then we'll show the CAN demo, which is pretty cool use case for Milvus, GenAI, Cloudera machine learning, all of it running in enterprise cloud, but in your own space, so you don't have to worry that things are going out to an outside model or to an outside vector store. All of it integrated together. And these slides can be grabbed by scanning the dragon, and we'll be set to go. But let's get started. So, like we said, developer advocate. I like doing meetups. Anyone's interested in coming to a meetup, we do them virtually, we do them in person. New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Always looking for speakers and other topics, especially anyone out there in the community and the open source world. Anything that's cool, just reach out. I do a newsletter, covers everything. I mean, probably too much stuff. Comes out every Monday, but it's in GitHub, so you don't have to worry about you're getting on some list. You could just grab it whenever you want. Even automate it, download it, store it in Milvus. Maybe I'll do. Ooh, I didn't think of that. Okay, I just thought of a new app. I'm going to do that. I'm going to pull my newsletter into Milvus, then auto publish it to Slack. I don't know, something. We'll think of something cool there. Now there's a lot going on in the space. While you're looking at the slides, there's new versions of everything here and new releases. I should have updated that to Llama 3. You know, and then there's that GPT 4.5 hidden somewhere that may be real, maybe not. But obviously, there's a lot of stuff out there. What's nice is you don't always have to pick closed stuff. There's open models, there's open source. All this works together pretty well. We use this in our enterprise space, so you can have this while not having to, manually set up everything. But I've got a manual way to set up all this stuff if you want to do stuff pure open source, which is, not a bad way to go. And I'll show you on a side where I'm calling 4 different models in Hugging Face at once. And just as Hugging Face is pretty cool. If you are in the enterprise, certainly generative AI opens up 10,000 different use cases. These are the ones I've seen most commonly. These are also the ones that we tend to have something like Milvus in there to improve the context for prompts or to circumnavigate, even calling the model sometimes. I'm using that in a side use case for search, where I search Slack and I search Milvus at the same time just to see what kind of results we get back. Also, I'll be searching Iceberg and some document stores and just to get a whole bunch of things with one federated search via real-time streaming. But yeah, chatbots, everyone wants a chatbot. They are useful, especially when they can have really smart information and not have to build a whole model for it. Lots of models will let us use the information we retrieve from Milvus to make it faster and smarter. So this use case is coming up a lot. I like to plug this in with Slack. So I've got a nice interface there that runs everywhere, and I don't have to run some kind of app or figure out security around it. Tying in Slack makes that nice. Classifying data, that's a big one, especially for us. At Cloudera, we host a lot of data, whether that's in private cloud, public cloud, some hybrid, some multiple clouds. Building content, there's debates on that one because sometimes they're they're pretty bad. It's hit or miss, but content generation is definitely useful for maybe things like documentation and some other use cases. A bunch of other things. Another one we see a lot is code assistant, especially trained on your own code base. And we're doing some things with that in the open source for an iFi. Document summarization, not a bad one. And translations, that is even a better one. I should put that as another example. Translating stuff is really helpful. Obviously, you see those models out there when I've been running them. Some of the closed ones are giving us a little better results, but open source keeps catching up. And then when you add something like a powerful vector store that you could run on premise in the safety of your own private cloud or in your secured environment with a public cloud or through something like Zilliz, it's very helpful. But let's try to get through some of this basic stuff here. You've seen this, and again, you'll get all these slides. I just don't want to have people fall asleep while we're doing too many slides. I know I like slides because, in case we don't know what to talk about, I can point you to something, but you'll get these for later. I think the main thing to think with streaming, combining with a vector and combining with AI and ML, these are the common things that I'm seeing and using usually, getting that context ingested, routing it, cleaning it, get it into whatever formats we need. What's nice with data flow is we can work with PDFs and zip files and documents and text and whatever kind of data you have, helping you with the prompt engineering and auto forming that from various sources, maybe combining things from a Kafka stream or logs, lots of different sources of data, pull things out of your lake house, helping you get that context. We spent all that time getting it into something like Milvus. We should get that out so we could have a smart context so we get better results. And again, helping you connect to different things, whether that's to build up that context or to act as your interface. So I could talk to Discord, REST interfaces, different databases, Slack, whatever it is, and connect that without having to write any code is pretty nice. Been able to work with all that unstructured data we talked about, and there's a lot that's scratches the surface. And then if you're in the enterprise, you want to be able to talk to all the different services out there, whether that's from Cloudera, whether that's from Amazon, Azure, Google, IBM, Hugging Face, Zilliz, a ton of different vector stores out there. And right now, I'm building a new connector for Milvus in NiFi natively. There's an article I have on this. I have a couple of different ways to do it. We have, there's always a lot of options. I'll show you two in the demo. One demo from my friend Kevin. He has it going through our standard Python running in our secure CML environment using the standard PyMilvus stuff. I'm embedding that within our connectors so it can be part of the stream pretty easy, and you'll see that in the demo. You could scan that to get that article. Again, we'll get that all down there. What's nice about data flow, ton of different things you could do, all of it in real time. Or if you need to slow down to a batch or, run every couple of seconds, I'm running some demos in different places. I've got one in public cloud, one running on my laptop because if something goes wrong, we're all local, makes things a little easier to not have to worry. Oh, did a network go down? Is there a delay at one of the locations? It's a good way to do that. And NiFi is nice. I'll show you how Dataflow lets you drag and drop and just connect these streams of data in real time. Capture all this data regardless of where it is. We've got a ton of different places where we could store it. What's nice is Dataflow is just designed for these types of mixed data. I mean, obviously, structured data we've been doing for a decade, but we've been doing the same for weird data, images, videos, zip files, whatever it is. And something that's important when you start running in these hybrid environments, whether it's cloud, multiple clouds, is how do I know where I am, what's going on right now, what happened, what's the provenance and lineage of this path where I had data sitting in GitHub and I pulled it down and then I cleaned it up, parsed it, put it into Milvus, then I used it in a query, then I built up a prompt, and I sent it to Slack. Built into Dataflow and NiFi is something called provenance that tracks all these steps. And this can be made as rich data that I can push to some other source. So it's always available. Great for auditing, great for debugging, great for development. Lots of reasons why you want to be able to see everything going on with your system. Now, we're right in the middle of a major upgrade, and we've been testing this for a while in the community and within Cloudera. And this is the 2.0 version of NiFi. There's been 26 other versions or more with the sub releases, but this one adds some serious upgrades. Really nice way it integrates with Python, and I've been doing those for a while. JDK21 support, so the speed, performance, and scalability are now up there pretty intense. Rules engine to help you build your flows. Not that it's hard, but this makes it easier. A little side thing, we did mention Flink. I can call from Flink into a model. I can call from Flink into Cloudera machine learning. In this one, I'm using NiFi to act as a smart proxy to external uh, features. So we can do all the prompt engineering, caching, calling the right advanced RAG, make sure I do call Milvus at the right time if I need it before I send things out to the model. This is a nice way to do it. And this acts as a function within Flink. This lets me run an SQL against live streaming data. So I can do a query against a Kafka topic. And with the results back, I can have it call a function, and that function calls NiFi that'll handle if it should go to a model or not. Again, if I have 10,000 of the same data coming through every second, I probably don't want to call the model 10,000 times on that same data. So I might cache that maybe within a local cache within NiFi, maybe in something like Milvus. Lots of ideas there, depending on what you're doing in your system, what makes sense for you. This is a link to the full article for that, and that's the SQL calling a language model transparently. You don't even know which one it is. I could swap that out on demand or in real time. We got an article to that one. Now, those Python processors, I'm going to skip through those and you can look at them later. They do a lot of different functionality that lets me process things while it's in stream, while using the best Python libraries out there, and do things that make things a lot easier. I have an example where you ask for, I want to know what buses are near me. Well, I need to know where you are. Now, we could have you set up a profile, but you're in Slack. So you just ask for a location, say, hey, what buses are near, this location I'm near. Parsing addresses isn't the easiest thing in the world. So I've got a couple of different libraries that do that. And then once you get it processed, I need to get latitude and longitude to figure out where you are. Again, doing that in a stream is pretty easy. Now, I'm going to show you my local demo first because that one is running. I'm not going to show you this video one first because this is working right now. And the world of live demos, things could happen. Even though it worked 10 minutes ago, something might break. So I'm going to try this while everything seems to be working. And then we'll show you the Cloudera machine learning one with our amps, which are pretty cool. But let's see if everything's working here.
Right before we go into that, someone has asked a question.
Cool.
Is anybody using LLMs for scheduling appointments over the phone? So this question is open to the audience. If you guys would like to chime in, you can answer this question. But Tim, have you seen anybody using LLMs for scheduling appointments over the phone?
I've heard of someone doing that, and that came up. We had a big AI conference in Princeton, and there was somebody talking about it, and I think it was a startup looking to do it. I don't see why not. I mean, I could do that as a demo. You just have to connect to the system. I would use a context. I would definitely want like Milvus to have a context so it's not scheduling random appointments over the internet and it's going to like say just the ones I feed it. And then for me, it'd be pretty easy because I'd have you schedule it within Slack and I would get that with NiFi who's consuming the Slack and then parse out you want an appointment, who you are, when you want it. And maybe if it's with multiple different things, if it's an appointment to talk to your dev advocate, well, I could just connect that to, Calendly or my own calendar system or just, a table. I could just set up a database table that says, what's my schedule or read it from a document, right? That's a nice parsing. Parse a document, put it in Milvus, search there and get a match, get it back, then update. Well, do I want to update a document? I don't know. I guess it should be a database. You know, I'm so document crazy now. I'm like, oh, I can update a document. Is that it? Yeah. And then what if I have 20 people doing it at once and I'm updating the same document? Yeah, put it in a database.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't seen anyone using LLMs for scheduling appointments over the phone yet. At least not, not building anything like that. But I actually did hear about something like this from some sort of ad recently. So that was the only question that I wanted to get to before we get to your demo, Tim. So I'm going to take myself off the stage and let's get into your demo.
Okay, so we're not on the phone. Adding the phone is you got to usually have to pay people to parse a phone or set up your own system. There's probably maybe with Google Phone, maybe it's free, but Slack is free if you want to set up your own for the entry level plan, which turns out to be pretty good. This also lets you create apps. Once you create a Slack app, you could do something like type in a question, get a result. I also have it so you could upload images. There's a ton of things I'm doing through this Slack channel. This is the one that I ran while we were just starting up, and it's threaded. Search is my keyword to tell me to search this Slack channel for previous stuff. Also, I have a generic thing that looks for any question you ask and tries it out on 4 models at the same time. So I put in this search. It searched for these 4 models, which surprisingly, I've been getting really good results from Tiny Llama. It's been pretty good on this. But nevertheless, that's unrelated. We're going to ask a new one. As you see here, I asked one about Milvus, and here I was getting my search results from Milvus back. So we'll run one of those. There's probably some data on that. So what happens is once you enter the data, it gets consumed by NiFi, which seems to still be running. Okay, let's get into the right screen here. Okay, they're all running. This is great. So what I have is I've got a parser in NiFi that takes those Slack events and pushes them to Kafka so it could be used by multiple servers, multiple apps. Because I've got one, if you'll see here, it's already got some replies back from Hugging Face. That's because I have another app running that's watching this channel and grabbing my query and sending it to 4 different models. So when that's doing that, it also pushes it to Kafka. And if we check the data provenance, we could see that we just got a message back. We could look at the content, which gives you a lot of extra Slack stuff. But here's our query there. So we see that it made it through. I'm going to pull out the fields I like, route it where it makes sense. I have some keywords I put in there for different types of activities. One is to find you a bus. One is to search. One to give you a stock quote. One to give you the weather. Maybe one will be set up an appointment. I wonder if there's a startup that does appointments without having the GenAI part. And you could probably just call that API really easy. Okay, so what happens is when that comes in, I take the search and I send it to Search Slack because I have an app set up. And so I could use the API to search my Slack channel and I get those results back. And again, we could look at the results here and we could see I called that API and I got some results back. But I also called Milvus with that query. So I wanted to send that search term and then I format the results, which I return as JSON. And then I see if the results were good. I've been looking at the distance on those. I'm playing around to see if it has a good result or not. I mean, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I haven't loaded up Milvus with all the data I need yet, so I need to work on that. But you can see here, here's the results I got back. You know, the distance is not that great, so I want the distance higher. I should probably ask what's a good distance since I have a Milvus expert on the phone with me here. But just as an idea, we're doing these two things at once, and I'm also querying Slack. I'd push it to Slack and to Kafka just so we have it, and then we could see the results. I'll push in a couple at once here. I don't know if I want to give it 20 messages. That's a lot showing up in Slack, and I could send whatever results I want through Slack. This is nice. I could format it. I could also send the full content that was going through the system if I wanted to. This is the code for that channel, but I could use the name as well. But whatever is easier there. And you can see here, I had those queued up so it knows where to go, whoever asked a question, and it's returning the results of the search coming in here, and it'll send them to the right place. You see those numbers are going up, as we have them queued up, because sending hundreds of Slack messages isn't the best. Some people don't want 100 messages going. But how did we get the data into Milvus? Pretty easy. So I have something where I'm downloading all my recent Medium posts. And I also have something where I pre-downloaded my old ones because the API doesn't let you access your older articles, which is kind of a pain. So I downloaded them. And then we have something to parse documents, and if they're HTML, and then I get the text I need, and then I'm inserting it into Milvus, which we could see we're getting a whole bunch in here in this collection I have for documents, just a generic name, but that's fine. So we're inserting them. I'm also considering pushing them to Minio, and then pushing the results to Slack so we could track, where are we, how much stuff have we gotten come through the system here. And you can see here pushing the results as they're coming in, the different lines. My articles are pretty long, so we've got, that could be huge. That's why I wasn't pushing everything into Slack. Otherwise, I'm just gonna fill that too much. I got to figure out where I should push it. As I said, Minio. Maybe if you want the full content, you could see that. But it's pretty easy for us to get data into Milvus. Like I said, I am working on an updated processor there, and I'm still testing it to make sure it's performant enough. But when that's ready, I'll put that out in the open source, and you could just add that. So it's one step easier. And I'm adding one for query. Pretty straightforward. We have them for a lot of other things here. If you look at the system here, ton of different things we can grab from, ton of things we can put them through. Pretty straightforward there. So that is the simplest way to do it. It's pretty straightforward. Now, if you wanted to do something easier, we have the ability for NiFi flows pre-built as part of our ready flows. Now, I haven't written one to do Milvus yet. I'll probably figure out what's the top couple of use cases for NiFi and Milvus, and then we'll create a couple in here. So all you'll have to do is pick one from the list, and you're like, oh, that one's pretty good. I want to take, maybe stuff from Box goes to Milvus, and then you just have to create a new flow, give it a name, where do you want to run it? Boom, it's deployed to public cloud. And then you get a little designer where you could work on your program, and you could also test it here. And then when you're ready, you deploy it out to whatever environment you want to run it on, and put any variables you need, and it's ready to deploy. Pretty straightforward, but gives you an idea of how you can easily use this. This is the public cloud interface for enterprise AI. And as you can see, it can run in Azure and AWS transparently to you. You decide where you want to run it, where you want to deploy it, which environment you pick, or multiple. Pretty easy. Anything else? I got an article that goes through what we were covering today. We get those articles from Medium, get them into NiFi, push some of the stuff into Kafka, obviously write it to Milvus, and read and write to Slack. Pretty straightforward. But that's about this one today. Um, that's the main parts of this demo, other than we've got the data in Kafka, so I can run different analytics on it, or have that consumed by things like, say, Iceberg, or have that pushed into a Spark app, what have you. That's the main part of this. There's some more things I want to show, but I want to make sure you see the main Cloudera machine learning demo, and that may take a little time to get working. So I want to, give that a try now. We have plenty of time, and then we'll get back to questions or showing some more different options we could do within this environment. So I'm going to switch the sharing, and hopefully no problems will happen. Hopefully all the audio will work. There'll be no weird bad stuff happen.
I always love demos. All right.
Today I'm going to be demonstrating how we can
Oh, okay, it seems to be working. I'm going to start it. Hopefully the audio's loud enough. If it's not, definitely comment. I don't know if we could fix it, but we will try. If not, maybe we could upload that separately to YouTube or provide it in another format. But let's give it a try here.
leverage the AMP catalog to deploy a LLM chatbot augmented with enterprise data. In particular, we're going to be using the Milvus vector database and an open source LLM model. From within the Cloudera machine learning suite, you can click on the AMPS catalog and see an option called LLM chatbot augmented with enterprise data. If you notice here, several different tags, of course, the primary one for today being Milvus. Whenever I click configure and deploy, I have the option to essentially specify a number of parameters that I want to include as a part of the deployment. In this case, this is pretty well built out, so we don't really have to specify anything other than the runtime. I'm going to go ahead and jump up to the latest runtime, take the other defaults, and go ahead and launch the project. One thing you'll notice is that there's pretty much nothing I have to do between now and the final application that gets created. We like to say these put you a good percentage of the way there in terms of creating an LLM application. Really the only thing that you have to add to this is your own data set. Here we're going to be using some docs from our public-facing website, which I'll show you in a minute. And since this will probably take about an hour to go ahead and download all the dependencies, spin up GPUs, download the models, I've already deployed one here, so we're going to be using that one. So this is sort of the page that you'll end up with once it's been successfully deployed. You'll have the ability to go ahead and open up that chatbot application. But a couple of the things that I wanted to call out here is, from a Milvus perspective, what really happens under the hood. First off, we have to populate the vector database with the document embeddings. But before we can even get to that step, we needed to know what is the actual data we'll be using. So here I've just got some text data. If you notice, it's not very structured in that there's, there's missing spaces, there's multiple spaces. This is sort of one of the great capabilities of both vectorizing data as well as LLM chatbots taking the final data and processing it, is that we end up with sort of a cohesive response regardless of how the data was formatted. So there's about 10 of those in here, and what you'll notice when I come back up to the top level, that's going to be the data set that we're going to use to populate our vector database with. So for this one, we've downloaded a all mini LM L12-V2. Feel free to check this out on Hugging Face if you want. It's a embedding model.
Okay, I'm going to try a different mechanism here, and I'm going to upload this in, we should be able to upload this in the group later, and maybe that will be better. I'm hoping I'll try it through here. Maybe this is a little, at that size, it seems okay. Let me see if when we started, it's still good. I don't want to get it. That still looks a little blurry here. Maybe a little better.
Is there a way to adjust the settings on the video there, like the little settings icon? See if that can be.
Yeah, let me see if we can make quality. Oh, maybe. Let's see. That look a little better. Oh,
That looks a little better to me. All right. Thanks for the feedback in the chat, guys. Let us know if how it goes now.
yeah, that looks a little better to me. Let's see.
Someone says it's almost the same for them.
Oh, oh, that's weird. Because it looked okay for me, but yeah, and it was a little blurry before.
Yeah, it looked a little bit clearer for me. Do we have like the raw data file for this somewhere?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so maybe what we can do is try that, and if that doesn't work, then we can.
Oh, yeah, let me try that.
Yeah.
Let me try it from just running it on my computer, because I thought when we would uploaded it to StreamYard that would work, but let's see here. Let me try this.
In this case, this is pretty well built out, so we don't really have
That look any better? Let's try this one.
I'm going to go ahead and jump.
Someone's saying the font is kind of small. Maybe do full screen, see if it's.
Okay, let's try that.
There's pretty much nothing I have to do.
I don't know if I could zoom in any.
Yeah, I think this is just the recording is. Oh, there it is.
Hard to read still.
Yeah. I think it might be a bit better. Let's see what the chat says.
Here we're going to be using some docs from our public-facing website, which I'll show you in a minute. And since this will probably take about an hour to go ahead and download all the dependencies, spin up GPUs, download the models, I've already deployed one here. So we're going to be using that.
Looks like it's better. Nice.
So this is sort of the page that you'll end up
zoom a little more. Okay.
That I can do. You'll have the ability to go ahead and open up that chatbot application. But a couple of the things that I wanted to call out here is, from a Milvus perspective, what really happens under the hood. First off, we have to populate the vector database with the document embeddings. But before we can even get to that step, we needed to know what is the actual data we'll be using. So here I've just got some text data. If you notice, it's not very structured, and that there's there's missing spaces, there's multiple spaces. This is sort of one of the great capabilities of both vectorizing data as well as LLM chatbots taking the final data and processing it, is that we end up with sort of a cohesive response regardless of how the data was formatted. So there's about 10 of those in here. And what you'll notice when I come back up to the top level, that's going to be the data set that we're going to use to populate our vector database with. So for this one, we've downloaded a all mini LM L12-V2. Feel free to check this out on Hugging Face if you want. It's a embedding model. So when you end up loading it up, you'll see it in this transformers model that can map sentences and paragraphs to a 384-dimensional dense vector space. And it's particularly useful for applications like what we're going to do, which is semantic search. So coming back over here, we've got the model downloaded. Now we're going to populate the vector database. Here we've got a vector database insert Python file. A couple things to take away from this is that we're going to create a Milvus collection. If you notice here, we've got a relative file path, which points to the data directory. And then we've sort of mapped out the schema of which we're going to write. When we actually go about inserting the embeddings, you'll notice it's pretty simplistic in that and we just take the text of the embeddings, or the text of the document rather, and get its embeddings. And then we pass that along with this metadata here that's particularly relevant as you want to know where the data came from. Think, output not being hallucinated. I want to see exactly where the source was. Because ultimately this is going to be the data we use to pass to the LLM model. So then we actually set up the base directory. Think of this as the collection. We start with our directory, add a collection over top of it called Cloudera ML Docs, and then we go ahead and spin up that Milvus database. Now, as you think towards scaling this, it may look like running this at a larger, through Docker, something like this. All of this you can do as well, but here we're just going to spin up a local Milvus instance, and this will allow us to generate those embeddings and deploy them. Now, one things that Cloudera sort of excelled at in terms of this type of process is we've created a notion of jobs. So rather than you having to sort of run that multiple times, I can actually just populate the vector DB with the document embeddings. You'll notice a relatively small form factor size, 1 CPU, 4 gigs memory. And let me jump back to show you what it looks like under the hood. When we actually run that, you'll see that this vector database came online, and then we created embeddings for all those documents that I showed you earlier in the folder. So that means we've got 13 inserted embeddings, and so when we go and spin up our application, one of the things that I'll show you is the way in which you structure your query sort of derives whatever document that will be passed to the LLM model as part of that semantic search for a response. So like I said, the project creation succeeded. You'll actually just see this out of the box. It'll say open, but in this case, I also want to introduce applications. So I'm going to jump over here. When I click CML LLM application, it'll open up a new window. And from in here, you've got a Gradio interface, a couple example questions. One thing to note is that since I've only given it about 13 docs in our vector database, I want to ask questions sort of specific to those. Otherwise, you sort of lose the reason you're using RAG. The whole idea of RAG is retrieval augmented generation. So you're augmenting your search with certain types of queries that you pulled out of the vector database. So I've loaded in information about machine learning in Cloudera and some information about Iceberg. So I like the Iceberg example because it's so sort of poignant, right? Like if I'm asking a question, what are Iceberg tables, or what is Iceberg? I actually like what is Iceberg even better, because if I ask that question on ChatGPT, I'm probably going to get a response that correlates with whatever the Titanic ran into or scraped, or maybe the lettuce that no one likes to eat for lunch. But you see that play out explicitly whenever I submit the question, and I get two sets of responses, the top one being one that has no context and the lower one being one where I actually used the vector database to help facilitate that search response. And again, you see that played out like so. This one actually used Milvus, and this one did not. Think of the question that sort of got asked under the hood as, what is Iceberg given this data context? And you'll actually note that if I go back into the application and look at the log files, it printed out, Iceberg snippet as being the source document that I looked at. This one right here was from a query that I did a little bit ago, so that's why that's there. One last thing is around the actual LLM response. If you notice, I'm actually pulling the context chunk from the data. So I only loaded in a portion of that total data set, the iceberg snippet.txt, and I actually pass the whole document to the LLM whenever I read it in as part of that semantic search. So just something interesting to note about the size of the vector database as well. I hope you enjoyed this and got something out of it. Thanks.
Okay, that wasn't the easiest way to do a demo ever. Unfortunately, Kevin wasn't available, and getting a GPU is always something we got to schedule there. So, man, if people have free GPUs lying around, that's why I tend to use Hugging Face with some lightweight models. I don't have to worry about it. But if you want to keep it within your own environment and nothing's going out, no external calls at all, this is nice. If you're doing something on your laptop, certainly, a llama or something works pretty good. But we'll make sure that people can get that that video, and hopefully I'll see if we could upload that in a higher format so that could be shared as well. But that seemed at least viewable.
Cool. Yeah, we will send out whenever that gets uploaded. Tim, just let me know, and we'll send that out in a post-event email. You will get a email with the link to that video, as well as all of Tim's slides. Do you have anything else for the presentation, or should we just take questions?
We could do some questions, and we still got a little time. We'll go through some other stuff if there's no questions, just to wrap it up.
All right. Well, let's give the audience a minute or so, see if there's any questions that come up in the chat. It looks like the chat's pretty calm right now, so if there are any questions, we'll take them. We'll give you guys a minute or so to ask some questions, and then we can kind of go over the rest of your presentation. I know you have a lot of slides.
There's always too many slides because I want to make sure people have access to all the content and examples, because people are going to be like, oh, I saw it. Can I try it? Yeah, you can, which is cool.
That is always the developer's mindset.
At least my mindset. I want to let me touch it. That's why I liked Milvus, because I'm like, oh, I could just start using it now. There's no difficulty starting up there, really.
Yeah. Okay, it doesn't look like there's any questions coming in the chat right now, so I'm gonna let you just kind of run through whatever it is that you have left to run through, and I'm gonna take myself off the stage.
Very cool. We'll just wrap this up. What we have here is a link to that application that was in the video. We call those amps because it's everything you need to get a full machine learning, in this case, LLM chatbot running. You pull this from GitHub, and it loads up in your Cloudera machine learning environment. And it's set up, as you saw with the jobs in there. Once you load it and you have the resources, it's ready to go. It may take an hour, again, loading the data, installing all the libraries. If you've tried to install these libraries, the ones for LMs are pretty huge. But you could scan here or go to the link there. Again, you'll get the slides, you get the video, get the code. But yeah, you can get right to that. If you want to play around with things like Flink and Kafka, we've got a community Docker out there that has all of it integrated together. It also has some Postgres in there, so it makes it easy for you to be able to build applications for streaming. And I'm going to be in Boston in about a week. So if you want to say hi, if you're at this event, say hi. I could show you some stuff that we're doing. And it's been cool. If you want to play around with this app, I've got the links out there on how to join this Slack channel, and you could actually use it. Now, I don't always have this running because, like I said, I am waiting for the data to come in and consuming it in this app that's running on my laptop. So it's waiting for data, but if I'm not listening, I'm not getting it. I can download it later, but if my laptop's not running, I'm not running it. I don't have a place to host this. I probably should put this in our public cloud environment so that we can always get those, but still trying to figure out, how many people want to use my Slack group here to do questions or do things like upload images, whatever you want to do there. But thanks for coming out. Sorry we had those problems with the video. At least the demo worked and we got to see everything running. It's that's something, I guess. But big thanks to everyone who came out. Very cool. And hope to see you in person. Hope to see all my vector friends out there in on the East Coast here. If you're out, we're doing events in New York and Princeton. And obviously, whenever possible, we put them into YouTube or make them available online. Sometimes hybrid real time, sometimes not. We do what we can. That's probably enough slides for today. Give you a couple minutes back to grab breakfast where you are, or by me it's lunch. Whatever. have some food.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you guys all for coming. Thank you for this presentation, Tim. And just so you guys know, I'm going to do one more plug for our next event, and then we're going to get out of here. So let me see. Like I said, here's some QR codes. Our calendar is, I'm going to drop this in the chat. We've got another event next Wednesday, same time. We're going to be talking about how you can evaluate LLM applications. So a little bit, further down the production stack, but should still be interesting to the same audience. And so thank you guys all for coming. And I will see you guys next week.
Very cool. Thanks, man.